The drama begins with a girl named Ji, a dedicated cartoonist facing the challenge of crafting a new story. She aims to weave an incredible romantic narrative laced with elements of revenge, ultimately creating a true masterpiece that keeps readers guessing about the ending until the very last moment. Moin is a delightful girl from a family involved in the jewelry business. Suyu is a well-known designer and the founder of a jewelry line. Yuna is a celebrated creative designer, while Lei is Yunkai's wife, who enjoys dancing and jewelry but leads a simple life as a housewife. One evening, Bailey and Yunai host a party to celebrate their 10-year wedding anniversary, inviting guests including Suyu and Moin, who arrive as a blissfully in love couple. However, amidst the festivities, Yunkai can't help but follow the enchanting Moin, who is holding a glass of red wine. It turns out that she has lured him to a secluded spot where they share a passionate kiss, hiding their relationship from everyone. Unbeknownst to them, Bailey witnesses the scene unfold. At one point, Moin notices Bailey but chooses to ignore her as she quietly returns to the party. Moments later, Yunai takes the stage to deliver a celebratory speech, acting as if nothing is amiss. He vows to love his wife for the rest of his life and promises to grant her some of her deepest wishes. Just as Bailey contemplates revealing the truth to the guests, Moin unexpectedly pours alcohol on the wedding cake and ignites it, leading to a small fire that disrupts the ceremony. Furious, Bailey walks up to the girl and demands to know what's going on. Mochin quickly admits that she plans to ruin Bailey's happiness and will do anything to break up her marriage. Shortly after, Mochin confesses to Swai that she hasn't been loyal to him. Heartbroken and disappointed with her life, Bailey jumps into the water, trying to end it all. At the same time, someone pushes Mochin in two and it looks like both girls are going to drown. But then, something magical happens. They switch bodies. The bold Mochin finds herself in the body of the loyal Bailey, while Bailey becomes the confident Mochin. The next morning, Bailey wakes up in the hospital in Mochin's body and starts searching for her own. She finds her body in a hospital room, but Mochin is in a coma and can't wake up. While there, she meets Sui, who has no clue that the two girls have switched places. When he asks her to keep their relationship a secret, it hurts Bailey because he's still lying to her. As she tries to leave, she feels faint and passes out again. When she wakes up, she sees Sui visiting Mochin and he demands an explanation. Bailey wants to tell him everything, but when she hears the name of his mistress, she feels sick and faints again. After being discharged, she goes home with Sui and realizes three shocking things. He doesn't want to be with his wife, they're just pretending to love each other, and their whole relationship is a lie. The following morning, Bailey convinces her husband to take her to the hospital for a checkup. She wants to see him and find out if Moin has come to her senses. As they walk by the right room, Bailey spots Yonkai being interviewed by reporters. He claims to love his wife deeply, but Bailey knows he's just pretending for the cameras. She can tell he's not being honest, even though he tries hard to look convincing for the journalists and viewers. Feeling betrayed, Bailey heads back to Moin's house, where she meets Moin's family. Since she's in Moin's body, she has to keep quiet and act carefully around them. Later, she meets Moin's father, a powerful businessman in the jewelry industry. He insists that his daughter should get married soon to help grow the business and eventually pass it down to her. Their talk is interrupted when Yonkai visits Moin's father to discuss a partnership. Listening in, Bailey realizes that her husband is taking advantage of her coma to build his business and form a strong connection with this influential family. It hits her hard that her whole life and marriage have been a lie, all for Yonkai's greed. Disappointed, Bailey wishes she could tell her husband the truth about being in Moin's body, but she doesn't want to ruin the surprise. The next morning, she decides to confront Yonkai to find out how long he and his mistress have been deceiving her. When she arrives at the fancy hotel, she realizes that her husband and his lover often meet there. Yonkai shows Bailey an engagement ring and asks her to marry him. Upset by what she has heard, Bailey bites him and runs out of the hotel, tears streaming down her face. She stops at the riverbank and throws the wedding ring into the water, marking the beginning of a new chapter in her life. That night, Bailey has a scary dream where Mokan attacks her, screaming and trying to choke her. When she wakes up, she realizes she needs to find a way to get back to her own body, but she has no idea how. The next morning, she goes to a cafe to meet her old friend Chaw, but Chaw refuses to talk to her, thinking Bailey is Mokan, whom she despises. Knowing her friend won't believe her wild story about switching bodies, Bailey leaves her a birthday gift and decides to learn more about Mokan's life. She visits her psychologist, Mr. Bang, who tells her that her parents divorced when she was little and that her current mother is actually her stepmother, who doesn't like her. The stepmother often treated Bailey poorly, and when she complained to her dad, he ignored her. Because of this, Mokan grew up to be a mean girl who looked down on men but craved attention and companionship. That's why she got involved with a married man who could give her some love and time. With this new information, Bailey is determined to take down Yonkai and comes up with a detailed revenge plan. First, she visits Sue's office to try to persuade him not to work with her husband. Despite her pleas, he refuses to help her. Through Sue's memories, we learn that he once had a crush on Bailey when they were teenagers, but he never had the courage to tell her. this is what stops him from facing Youngkai. He doesn't want to hurt B's husband, whom he wishes to stay close to. The next morning, Moin's sister visits Suyu to learn more about him and see how their relationship is going. After meeting Suyu, she tries to figure out if everything is going well and if their life together matches M's family's expectations. Moxie asks Suyu a bunch of personal questions, making him feel a bit uneasy. Suyu gives vague answers because his relationship with his fiancée is a secret that no one, not even her sister, knows about. Once their meeting wraps up, Suyu heads home and thinks about making a deal to improve his situation. The next day, Bailey talks to Mrs. Fun about her relationship with Suyu, while Suyu meets with his dad to discuss a potential partnership with Youngkai, unaware of Moin's job. Bailey arrives at the company and shows off her new jewelry. Later that evening, she meets with Fun's family and considers telling them the truth about Suyu and Moin pretending to be a happy couple. Meanwhile, the parents are hopeful that the couple is doing well. To keep up appearances, Bailey and Suyu share a passionate kiss, but Mrs. Faye still doubts their feelings are genuine. To ruin his sister's happiness, Moxie invites Suyu and 3 other men who knew Moin before to a meeting. The men accuse the manipulative girl of ruining their families and call her a hypocrite. Bailey, in Moin's body, defends herself, saying the men are responsible for how their relationship turned out. One of the men's wives tries to attack Bailey, but Suyu steps in to protect her and takes her home. The next morning, Suyu and Bailey meet with Fun's family again and find themselves at Moin's old school, where Suyu notices that Moin has changed and is starting to remind him more of Bailey. In the evening, the girl decides to have a chat with Mr. She tells him that Suyu is a really good person and shouldn't get mixed up with Youngkai. After thinking about what she said, the man calls Youngkai and tells him that neither he nor Suyu will work with him. Realizing that his mistress is involved, Youngkai meets with Bailey, not knowing that Moin's body is actually his wife, who knows everything about him. He threatens the mistress and promises to tell Suyu that she has been stealing from his family if she doesn't help him land a big contract. A few days later, Suyu meets Moin's parents and says he's ready to plan a wedding with their daughter. Moin tries to ruin the mood by reminding everyone that her sister used to be a terrible person. Unexpectedly, Suyu stands up for the bride and suggests they change the subject to avoid talking about the past. Trying to share more about himself, Suyu remembers how his real parents died when he was just a kid. Even though he faced tragedy, he managed to achieve great things because of the support from people who believed in him. Feeling a connection with Suyu, Bailey chases after him and kisses him passionately. While out for the night, Suyu reveals that his parents were poor, which led to their tragic end. Now that he's grown up, he has started his own company and wants to take down the competitor who ruined his family. Hearing this, Bailey says she's willing to help him, even though she doesn't know much about business. Soon they start getting ready for the wedding of Suyu and Bailey. Meanwhile, still hiding in Moin's body, journalists try to interview the couple, but Youngkai crashes the event and rudely pulls the girl into a hallway for a private talk. He asks her what's happening, but Bailey lies and says it's all part of her plan. Youngkai suggests she shouldn't go too far and become his wife, not knowing that Suyu has overheard them. Thinking Mochin wants to betray him, he decides to end the marriage contract with her. After making a public announcement, he tells her he regrets meeting her. Later, her father yells at her, blaming her for everything. The next morning, Suyu meets with Youngkai and proposes they work together. Suyu insists that Youngkai should not abandon his wife, who is in a coma, and should keep her on life support. They decide to join forces and approach Mochin's father to propose a partnership. Mochin's dad agrees, and the 3 companies merge to become the top in the market, making them very successful. When Bailey hears about this, she starts drinking heavily and feels hopeless, putting her revenge plan at risk. She doesn't know what to do next. A few days later, Mochin's father hosts a family dinner and invites Suyu and Youngkai. Bailey arrives and feels uneasy when the men start discussing the wedding again. She becomes nauseous and leaves the room, fainting and collapsing on the floor. Suyu finds her and rushes her to the hospital. She remains unconscious for hours, which worries him a lot. Eventually, Bailey wakes up and sees Suyu caring for her, realizing he actually cares about her. A few days later, Suyu visits Char's restaurant and discovers that her business is thriving. Recently, Youngkai has been feeling a bit better because his business is doing really well. He's even thinking about breaking the contract with his wife and getting rid of her. He believes he has the right to take her off life support whenever he wants. Later on, Suyu visits Bailey, who is in a coma, not knowing that Mochin is actually inside her body. Suddenly, Bailey's heart stops and the doctors rush her into surgery because her brain could fail at any moment if they don't act fast. Youngkai doesn't want the surgery to happen because he fears his wife might wake up, but Bailey in Mochin's body steps in and persuades Youngkai to let the doctors do their job. After a long wait, they find out the surgery went well, but Bailey is still in a coma, although there's hope she might wake up soon. When Bailey gets back home, she asks Suyu when he fell in love with her, not realizing she's talking to the same girl he loved at university. Later, Bailey visits Youngkai's house and finds herself in an awkward moment when he starts kissing her at the door. They are interrupted by the doorbell and her friend rushing in to take embarrassing photos. Seizing the moment, Bailey grabs her own sketchbook and leaves with Cha, giving him her book. Soon after, Young-kai and Cha start a jewelry line, but all the designs come from Bailey's sketches. Bailey plans to accuse them of stealing her ideas, and Cha, with the sketchbook, creates a huge scandal that catches the media's attention. Suyu officially apologizes and leaves the press conference, while Mochin's father claims he had nothing to do with the jewelry designs. In the end, only Young-kai is left at the presentation, feeling desperate and surrounded by reporters. He tries to defend himself, insisting that he didn't steal his wife's designs because she gave him permission to use them for his business. Meanwhile, a loudspeaker blares a recording of Young-kai saying he doesn't love his wife and wants to take her off life support. To make matters worse, Bailey shows a screen filled with photos that prove Young-kai has been cheating on his wife with Mochin. After Young-kai's reputation is completely ruined, the journalists have a major scandal on their hands. The girl starts facing problems. Her father disowns her, blaming her for everything that happened. She agrees with his decision, but before she leaves, she sneaks into a businessman's office and steals information from his computer. Later, she meets Suyu and hands over the stolen material. After looking through the data, he discovers that Mochin's father is the heir to the businessman who ruined his late parents' jewelry business. As the conflict unfolds, it becomes clear that the real villain behind the past events is the businessman's wife, and once he learns the truth, he decides to divorce her. A few days later, Moin starts to regain her senses and, looking in the mirror, realizes she's in Bailey's body. Unlike Young-kai's wife, she doesn't panic or rush to reveal herself, almost as if she expected this to happen. To keep her identity a secret, Mokan pretends to have amnesia and claims she knows nothing about herself. Meanwhile, Suyu chases away the reporters and reassures the girl, promising to help her remember everything. Bailey thinks the girl is lying and, feeling alone, tries to expose her. When Moin hears her own name, she smirks and reveals her true self. Bailey lunges at her, demanding the truth, but Moin screams for help. Suyu steps in to protect her and kicks Bailey out. Later, Moin, still in Bailey's body, returns to Young-kai's house, where she has to live with her husband. A rivalry starts between the girls, as neither is interested in losing or being cheated on, but both want a sweet and caring Suyu. Bailey tells her husband's mistress to stay out of their relationship, but Moin isn't backing down. Using her experience and Bailey's looks, she plans to win Suyu's heart and keep her close. The next morning, Moin meets with a psychologist and promises to marry him if he helps her break up her family. She also discovers who pushed her into the lake, leading to her coma, a stranger whose brother had died from unrequited love for Moin. Pretending to be Bailey, Moin decides to resolve everything gradually, starting with the issues that arose while she was unconscious. Moin also tackles the jewelry plagiarism problem. Soon, Moin's father announces a celebration and invites friends, family, and business associates. At one point, the upset girl decides to splash water on Bailey, but Suyu jumps in to protect her. The girl tells the reporters that she takes the blame for what happened to her brother, but Bailey can't respond because it's really Moin hiding her true self. Bailey wishes she could tell Suyu the truth, but realizes it's too complicated. Meanwhile, things are getting worse as Moin cleverly uses her new identity to become successful. Moin runs into an old friend who designs jewelry, and she tries to charm him into becoming her ally against stronger foes. Soon, they visit Moin's father to propose a deal that could benefit them both. The father eagerly agrees, not knowing that the girl is actually his daughter. According to the agreement, he must not only work with Moin as Bailey but also commit his own daughter to a mental hospital. Determined to do this, he bribes a psychologist to alter her medical records and send her for forced treatment. Meanwhile, Moin tries to win over Suyu, but he remains distant. He has loved Bailey for a long time, but now he doesn't feel the same way about her, which frustrates Moin, who is trapped in Bailey's body. Cha also attempts to connect with his friend, but notices she has become harsher and colder, leading him to pull away. Moin's true self starts to show, making Cha and Suyu suspicious that she is not the same person they once knew, but they can't figure out how this is happening. At the same time, Bailey is heading home when she gets attacked by two men who are trying to kidnap her. She calls out to Suyu but doesn't get a response, which makes her realize something really bad has happened. When she goes to the businessman's house, who is also Moin's dad, Suyu finds out that Bailey has been sent to a psychiatric hospital because she needs urgent help. Suyu rushes there, rescues Bailey, and after pushing the kidnappers away, takes her to his home. The next morning, he meets with the psychologist and demands to know what's going on. The psychologist, Bang, says that Bailey has mental issues and really needs treatment. Later, one of the businessmen tries to buy Bailey's shares, but she and Suyu refuse because they have a better plan. They decide to leave town for a bit, and Bailey meets the girlfriend of the man who died, apologizing for what happened. She explains it wasn't her fault, but it's important for the girl to help her grieving sister find peace. Meanwhile, Mochin and the designer keep buying shares and end up with 55% of the company, making them the main shareholders. When they get to the office, they tell Moin's dad to step down as president or everyone will learn about his terrible secrets. Realizing he's trapped, the old man resigns and gives the position to Chen, who runs the jewelry company. At the same time, Bailey starts a new life in a lovely house in the mountains with Suyu, and they seem happy. But their vacation takes a turn when Mochin tries to charm Suyu into coming back to the city and leaving Bailey behind. Even though he used to have a crush on Bailey, Suyu is now avoiding Moin, who is hiding behind her friends. Soon after, Suyu's best friend reveals a lot of truths about the person behind the various scandals and provocations. When Suyu discovers that Bailey is involved in some shady activities, He goes to her workplace and tells her he's disappointed. He can't believe that the real Bailey would act this way, but she angrily yells at him, making him leave her office. After that, she has a heated conversation with her new partner, reminding him that she is the one in charge, not him. Meanwhile, Suyu starts to notice that something is off with Moin. The more he observes her, the more he realizes that she has many traits similar to Bailey, the girl he has always loved. The way Moin wears her jewelry finally convinces him that it's not Moin but Bailey standing in front of him. Determined to find out the truth, he takes her hand and asks her to be honest. With tears in her eyes, Bailey admits it's her and explains everything that happened. Suyu apologizes for treating her poorly at first, thinking she was whom he dislikes. This leads to a new love story blossoming between Bailey and Suyu. When Suyu confronts the real Moin, he tells her he knows the truth and is ready to do anything to take her down. They share a silent moment, both realizing how committed they are to ruining each other's lives. Meanwhile, Moin finds herself in a tough spot as her partner and therapist refuse to help her anymore. At the same time, it's revealed that Yunkai has fallen on hard times, living in a tiny house and struggling to pay rent with no money. Mochin goes to see her old boyfriend and suggests they team up to take down Bailey and Suyu. Everything seems fine between the couple, but Bailey feels uneasy when she sees how Mochin looks. She wishes she could go back to her own body but doesn't know how. Meanwhile, Mochin offers Yunai a tempting deal, promising to clear all his debts if they can defeat the happy couple. After signing the deal, Yunai gets a fancy tuxedo and learns about Bailey's supposed wrongdoings. He confronts Bailey, who is in Mochin's body, accusing her of crimes that were actually committed by Mochin. She has been stealing, and Yunai could use this to get her arrested. However, he also offers her a different choice to spend the night together, which would make the evidence disappear. Bailey reluctantly agrees and invites Yunai over. When they meet, she accuses him of betraying her and taking advantage of her trust for years. As Yunai starts to panic, he realizes that the woman in front of him isn't his ex, but his wife. Trying to escape, he runs into Mochin in his wife's body. Suyu and Bailey tell Mochin that the designer was actually working with them, so her plan has backfired. Now Mochin has to pay the company's debts or face jail time. Mochin asks Yunai to attack Bailey, but he soon figures out that the girls have switched bodies. Realizing the truth, he decides to go after Mochin, but Suyu and Bailey struggle to calm him down. In a moment of despair, Mochin jumps into the water and Bailey jumps in after her to save her. After the girls are taken out of the water, it becomes obvious that nothing has changed. Bailey had hoped that she and Mochin would switch bodies again, but that doesn't happen. A little later, Suyu asks Bailey to marry him. Meanwhile, Mochin falls into a coma again, but this time Yunai decides to look after her and make sure she stays in this world. 6 months later, Suyu and Bailey have become a successful business duo, launching a new project where they sell futuristic jewelry and deal with pesky journalists. Sadly, Bailey never got her own body back, but she's not upset about it anymore. She has accepted Mochin's appearance, and people no longer blame her for Mochin's past mistakes. A new love in a new body brings Bailey joy because she's finally with someone who cares for her, loves her, and waits for her. Suyu and Bailey are confident that nothing will come between their happy life together, and that's where the drama ends.